The big stock or the big mover in trade today is surely IndusInd Bank. We've tried to break down as to what's happening in the stock, what's happening on the counter, and we've kind of tried to present this in a bull versus bear kind of case. So let's pull up the first one. Now, essentially, it's a Nifty 50 counter. Its loan book has grown at 12% CAGR in the last 5 years, so not a bad kind of growth clip. Especially given that there was COVID within that last 5 years. And, overall, IndusInd Bank well promoted and a solid bank in terms of name. But what's really happened, they've guided for an 18 to 23% growth guidance at the start of this financial year for the next 5 years. Unlikely to meet that right up in the first year itself. Of course, today the leadership change is the overhang. But just look at that, the right off the bat, not being able to keep up with that kind of growth clip that they've guided for. Now, what's gone wrong at this point? Stock down 35% in the last 6 months or so. Microfinance is the drag. Now, is the question really is, and the market today asking, is this the bottom where microfinance is concerned? And if it is, then you might see IndusInd actually bounce back fairly well, because that is the key drag with regard to asset quality for IndusInd at this point. So any kind of turnaround there could help. What's the bear case? Well, MFI issues in Bharat Financial, which is IndusInd Bank's subsidiary, has been the case for a very long time. It's been a big drag on IndusInd overall as well. In fact, they haven't been able to forecast asset quality issues very early either. Q1 of this financial year, they were guiding for a steady on-course financial year. Q2, you saw a turnaround with regard to asset quality. Q3, despite the elevated provisioning in Q2, Q3 was also elevated. So really, where is the light at the end of the tunnel where IndusInd is concerned, and whether they can turn around Bharat Financial in a big way is the question. The bull case, change in leadership. This is the big news which is moving the stock in trade today and has done so last week as well. May actually lead to a re-rating. I mean, a more capable leadership could well change the way in which IndusInd operates, as well as how the stock is perceived. But the 1 year extension given to the current MD CEO will mean that at least for the next year or so, Mr. Katpalia continues to lead the bank, and therefore could well continue to be an overhang. The leadership overhang will continue to remain next year as well. But at the same time, let's look at valuations. At 0.9 times FY26 expected price to book value, it's well below average, and it's well below peers as well. There's, of course, multiple overhangs. Asset quality, leadership being just two of the overhangs we've just spoken about. Growth is the other one. On a low base, not been able to grow. And therefore, whether that multiple can re-rate in a substantial fashion is really the question. And let me put that across to Siddharth. Siddharth, do you believe that there is a case for a large multiplier in terms of re-rating within IndusInd? How positive are you at this point on an IndusInd Bank? What's the target price and what makes you positive?
Harsh, I think you laid out the positives and negatives pretty clearly. I think if you look at the core business, I think last few quarters has been pretty muted, be it in terms of slowdown in growth, asset quality stress, subdued margin performance, and a bulk of this is already being factored in by the stock price, which is corrected 40% in the current FY25 YTD. Plus, I think the biggest overhang now remains with regards to the MD's term extension, which has contributed to the further derating. There is 1 year time horizon, but this 1 year will keep a lot of uncertainty with regards to change in management, who will get appointed, how things will move from here. While the valuations at these levels bake in most of the negatives, I think Q4 would be the worst of the quarter in terms of the washout quarter, another washout quarter for IndusInd, and I think that is where maybe the stock could make a bottom. Until then, we would clearly stay away from IndusInd, although the valuations look attractive. I think we'll have to wait for Q4 and some clarity. I think once the new management name is announced, once the new leader names is announced, I think that's the time when the street will start liking or taking a favor towards IndusInd. Until then, the stock could continue to remain under pressure.
And Hemen, your technical perspective with regard to IndusInd, what levels are you looking out for? A Nifty 50 name with likely the highest upside from a fundamental perspective. Do the technicals also align as much?
No, it's a dichotomy because if you look at IndusInd, many stocks, including maybe SBI, ICICI, Axis, uh, even maybe an HDFC Bank, many stocks have made new highs over the last 4 or 5 years. The Bank Nifty has. Now, IndusInd Bank has peaked somewhere in August 18, or 7 years and counting, and we are nowhere close to those highs. So it has been, I wouldn't say perennially, but have been underperforming for a long time, and that doesn't seem to have gone away. It fell off a cliff to 250, went back to 1700, and has resumed its downward journey. Rock solid support at 1800. If I were to stick my neck out and say something positive, it would be only at 1800, not at current levels. We've seen a distribution which has seen a breakdown. We've broken 920. There's a downward gap. Sorry to say, not very many high, except an oversold situation, which doesn't tantamount to much unless we see some follow-up buying. I don't see any technical positives yet.